Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and we are not off for a good start because we are having internet issues. That's why we have the cameras off right now to save some bandwidth, but we hope that the stream goes through. And with that, we want to welcome everyone here that is joining, who is joining us live here today for what is hopefully, Dutch, going to be a good show because the internet is, I don't know what's going on. It's a mess.
We think it's the internet, but I'm going to be pretty honest. I was speaking to you about this before we started.
Yeah.
OBS Studio has been horrific for weeks, and it's not just me. It keeps saying the same thing to Boxy. It keeps dropping frames all the time and things like that. So God knows what's going on with it.
Yeah. So guys in the chat, please let us know if the stream is, at least the audio is coming through properly. And we still want to do a podcast. Let's see if the technology will allow us to do so. Yeah. So, again, a big welcome to everyone in the chat. A big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple Podcast, wherever you're listening. A big welcome. Dutch, this week I want to thank especially the fine people from Letland that do listen on iTunes a lot. Yeah, Letland.
Santa and his little elves are all listening to us.
We have listeners from all over the place, but usually our number one or the most listeners come from the US, and so they did so last week. But the second spot got taken out of nowhere from Letland. That's what it says on the iTunes statistic thing. Nice. So a big shout out to everyone who is listening over there, but of course a big welcome to everyone everywhere else, because we do have listeners from all around the globe. And Dutch, unfortunately, we were not able to do a podcast last week, simply for work reasons on my end. So we have double the news to cover, right? So
yes.
I'm looking forward to today's show. And before we start, I want to shout out H. Julia, who sends in a channel member chat for being a channel member for 14 months now. So first of all, thank you so much for the continued support. And the channel member chat simply says hello. And with that, a big hello back to you and to everyone else. All right, Dutch. Before we start properly with the show, we need to talk about the most important things in gaming, and that are the games, the video games that we are playing right now. Let us know in the chat what you guys have been playing. If you do listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, put it in the comments. We really want to know what the community is playing right now. And Dutch, please tell us what kept you busy.
Yeah, so much like yourself, I haven't really been that busy on the old video games this week. But that said, I have still played a little something. I've been playing Split Fiction with the General C.
Sweet. How is it?
Fantastic. I'm at this point, I'm not sure whether or not it is as good as It Takes Two yet. As it stands, I still think It Takes Two's my favorite. But I think only time will tell whether or not that changes as it goes on. I think so far It Takes Two is still the winner. But it's fantastic, very creative.
Nice.
There's lots of little Easter eggs and things in it.
Nice.
For those who played the other games. So, and for those who've played, to be fair, there's Easter eggs in it for a lot of things, including Halo. There's a Halo Easter egg in there. There is an It Takes Two Easter egg. There's an Assassin's Creed Easter egg. There's lots of them kind of put in there throughout the game. So Cool. If you've loved all of these other games by Joseph Harris, you'll absolutely love this.
Sweet.
Other than that, I've been playing what you would class as one of your chill out games. So a game you'd always go back to when you just need something mindless to play on.
Yeah,
that's Minecraft.
I need to get you in touch with my boys. My kids are crazy when it comes to Minecraft.
Yeah, it's especially if I just want to chill out and just build something and just explore a world and not even think about it and have music on in the background or an ebook or something. Just put Minecraft on and just sit there and listen to something whilst I'm playing. I think it's the best way to do it. Absolutely.
I love that. I do have also my comfort games. Path of Exile 2 has become one of those. I can just play that and listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something while doing so. I love that. I love these comfort games, right? But I've never been a big Minecraft.
Yeah, you just put it on. You don't have to think about anything. You play it. There's no real threat or anything going on. You're just like, I'm okay. Nothing's going to I don't need to think about what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Audio can be off. You can listen to something else. Yeah. Sweet. So let us see what the community has been playing. Dustin Lambert is still playing Diablo 4. That's also one of the comfort games of mine. These action RPGs where you just can go out, grind a little, do some stuff, and listen to a podcast while doing so, right? Yeah. BT Maverick just finished Avowed and Hollow Knight. Nice. Avowed is so good. Yeah, Siki also finished Avowed.
You can also wait the eternal wait for Hollow Knight 2.
Yeah.
At some point in the next decade, you'll get that.
True. Somewhen, hopefully.
I made the mistake of unfortunately having the Hollow Knight trailer on and Aaron Greenberg saying that he was super excited for it coming soon on the previous indie showcase, and I was swamped by Hollow Knight fans who literally stalked the show and the podcast.
Rightfully so,
saying,
man.
You said it was going to come soon. I was like, I said all what he said.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, why is there so many addicted fans to this game?
Because it's really good. It's one of the best Metroidvanias ever made. It's just, it nails, Hollow Knight nails not just the gameplay aspect, that it feels really good, the combat is really good, the movement and the platforming is really good, but it is also a super brutal hard game, but in the best way possible, because it is not once unfair. You never die in that game and think, man, that was unfair, or I don't know what to do. You always know what was your mistake and why you died. And that is just exceptionally well done. It has great music, great level design. Hollow Knight is just a fantastic game.
Yeah, I've just never experienced anything like it. When they were just like, "Why? Why did you say it was coming soon?"
Yeah.
I was like, "That's all he said."
Yeah.
Don't blame me. Talk to somebody at Xbox. I don't care. Not me.
All right. So let's see. Siki also finished Avowed at 60 hours, and he's now gotten into X4 Foundations, made by my fellow countryman. So, I've never heard of that game. H. Julia is also playing Avowed. Siki's waiting for Atomfall. Yeah, it's like next week, I think.
Not long.
Yeah, I have it pre-installed already. So, yeah, Dutch. I've been playing. I didn't want to start a new game, a proper full new game before Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out. So I played a little bit around in your likes of Tony Hawk, After we had a chat in the last podcast, I downloaded Tony Hawk, played that a little, played a bit of Path of Exile 2, and then yesterday I moved to the beautiful country of New Zealand to start Assassin's Creed Shadows early. Love that country. I go there multiple times a month. Yeah. So, and then I started Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, I'm still super early. 4, maybe 5 hours, I want to say. Yeah. But it is fantastic. I mean, of course, if you don't like Assassin's Creed games, you're not going to like this one either. That's for sure. Yeah, it is a Assassin's Creed game in the best way possible so far. I really do enjoy that they have the 2 different characters that lets you play the game in a very different way. You know, if you enjoyed the gameplay of Valhalla, you're gonna want to play as Yasuke. You know, you just go in guns blazing, being this brutal warrior. And if you do enjoy the more traditional gameplay of Assassin's Creed, you can play as Naomi, or I don't even know how to pronounce her name properly. And you have the typical fantastic stealth gameplay of the older Assassin's Creed games. Yeah. And so far, again, super early in, the story is very, very good. It's a beautiful world, yeah. Feudal Japan, with these lush, cherry trees, with cherry tree blossoms everywhere, and it's just drop that gorgeous. Really, I do not think that Ubisoft gets enough credit for how technically well their games are. It's absolutely stunning, and they always launch complete. You know, so many games these days launch with a 30 FPS mode, and then the performance mode gets patched in 6 months after launch, or photo mode isn't there at launch, or this or that. And Ubisoft always launches absolutely complete games, right? You have a 30 FPS, a 40 FPS mode, a 60 FPS mode. All of those modes run really well so far. I'm playing now on the 40 FPS mode. Haven't had any issues, no tearing, no pop-in, no nothing. No bugs. I spent way too much time in photo mode already, and I just appreciate that about the Ubisoft games. So far, really enjoying Assassin's Creed Shadows. I have the first hour or so recorded, and it's on screen right now. So that's basically the intro that you can see now here in the stream, and it is a fantastic experience. I'm really having a blast, and I'm gonna spend an unhealthy amount of time in this game. I can tell you that, and you would love it. You would absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've mentioned this before. It's I know it's a Ubisoft game,
yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I just know exactly what I'm going to get. So I'm still deciding to. It's obviously beautiful. It's going to be a good game, but I'm just going to wait until it's on sale and pick it up on sale.
Do it like me and get Ubisoft Plus. Man, I was on the fence because I do own all the Assassin's Creed games.
That's exactly why I'm going to just buy it on sale, because I own them all anyway.
Yeah,
so I will get it.
But then I was really torn if maybe in a year or two when it's on sale for $5, I'm gonna get it just to add it to the collection. But I was really torn. I would have bought it at full price, no problem. But then, I have a couple of travels coming up, so I really want to have something to play on my Rock Alley. And then it hit me, man. And maybe someone in the chat knows or can, and if you do not know, please give me your opinion, because I posted about this also on Twitter, right? And I find it really, really weird. The value difference that you get when you subscribe to Ubisoft Plus for 15 euros a month, versus I'm buying the game at full price for 80 euros or 100 bucks if you get the deluxe version, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just because I can play it for 15 bucks, but because I get Play Anywhere. I can then install it on my Xbox, I can install it on my PC or my Rock Alley, respectively, right? I get cross progression for free. And with that, there is just so much value, right? And it just shows you that it is actually really weird that Play Anywhere isn't standard right now when you buy a game, right? When you buy Assassin's Creed for 80 euros on your Xbox, you can only play it there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a kicker. It's a bit of a kicker, but you can. I mean, but you can play it on. If you play it on your Xbox, you can also play it on their cloud. That's the only thing you can do.
On the Xbox cloud, it has been added to play your own games thing, but that's really not the same, right? Nope. Especially when traveling, streaming is usually not an option.
Terrible.
Not at all. And so. Play Anywhere is such a phenomenal value, and with Ubisoft Plus, you're getting that, for 15 bucks a month. Versus, I'm gonna spend 80 bucks to just play it on the Xbox. So I really hope that we've talked about this before on the show, that we expect Play Anywhere to become kind of a standard with the next generation. Or mandatory, even though for on Xbox consoles, because I do expect it's going to be a Windows-based console. So you're just going to get the PC version, and with that, Play Anywhere is automatically a given, right? But I haven't played Assassin's Creed Shadows on the Rock Alley so far. I've downloaded it, but so I can't really talk about how well it runs on there. But since it is also Steam Deck verified, I'm pretty sure that there's a good setting configuration for playthrough on the Alley, and I'll be doing that over the weekend, man.
Nice. I'm looking forward to seeing it, seeing what it looks like.
Yeah, and Ziki says in the chat, you can stream Assassin's Creed Shadows anywhere if you have Game Pass. Yeah, true. But again, I really do not care for streaming. That's why I bought a Rock Alley, right? Because I need and want to play locally. Because streaming, if you're not at home with a good connection, it's just a shit experience. I've never been in a hotel where I can stream. If you have to tunnel through approximately 500 different VPNs, streaming is not an option. On mobile data, streaming is really not an option. So honestly, the only place where I can play in the cloud is when I'm at home. And I don't really have a need to play at home via the cloud, because I'm getting a way better experience by just playing locally. So that's really the limitations, and that's why these handhelds are so popular. The Steam Deck and the Alley and the Lenovo and so on, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why, and that's what I want why I want Xbox to do their native handheld next time, because ultimately, yes, I can get a ROG Ally, yes, I can get a Steam Deck, but I want to see what the Xbox's native version looks like and what their pricing is for their native version before I pull a trigger on any handheld.
Let us talk about that, because we have it on the topic list anyway. We didn't have a chance to talk about this last week, but last week on Thursday and then Friday, respectively, a bunch of news came up that Xbox is apparently working on a handheld, but not in the way like you just described it. But apparently they are partnering with Asus to do an Xbox branded handheld, that has like the Xbox logo on it with an Xbox button and so on. But apparently it's still gonna be Windows-based handheld. And I mean, we do know from Jason Ronald, who spoke at the CES this year in January, that they are working heavily on Windows being more accessible and more approachable on handheld devices, because outside of the Steam Deck, all these handhelds are actually running on Windows, and they have something in the works that we will see later this year. And it did sound like it's a Windows Lite version that gets rid of all the Windows bloated stuff, and just focuses on playing games. And apparently the Xbox handheld that is, according to the rumors, but there have been sources like your Tom Henderson's and Jess Corn and so on behind this. So this handheld is going to come out this year, right? It did sound to me, honestly, a lot like the ROG Ally 2. The Asus ROG Ally 2 has been heavily rumored for this year anyway, featuring the Z2 processor. The current version, the ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X, do have the Z1 Extreme. And there's a new version of this chip coming out this year from AMD, and it's heavily rumored that the ROG Ally 2 has this chip, and it is also rumored for this year. And now we hear all these rumors about Xbox partnering up with Asus, and so I'm pretty confident. I don't need to have inside sources that this is gonna align, right? And since the original ROG Ally also has been heavily advertised by Xbox, it only makes sense. But what are your thoughts before I explain a little bit more on my thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's all in line with everything we've been discussing for months in terms of Xbox's approach to the handheld and creating a Windows Lite version of it. We kind of said this on the back end of having the conversation with them the first time we'd spoke to them in person about them discussing the handhelds and the pricing models and things like that. And then, of course, they've kind of come out and started talking about how they're kind of working with third parties about creating kind of additionals. And this isn't just for handhelds, but this is also potentially for consoles in the future, where they might work with third parties in order to produce consoles using that Windows Lite version of the OS. So there's kind of multiple options you can have, but all of them essentially run Xbox games, so you don't have to worry about which one you buy. So there's going to be multiple options. But of course, they'll have their own Xbox branding on these things. It's like officially licensed Xbox product. So people will still know, okay, that's still an Xbox kind of bit of hardware.
Yeah.
Even if it's used by a third party. Now, of course, to us, that kind of means that you don't know whether or not you're playing the Xbox or whether or not you're playing a third party one. To the average eye, you'll not know the difference.
That is true from the outside, but of course, since it's still Windows based, you're not gonna have your Xbox library on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless, like you say, they do the native version, which is why I'm waiting. So if they have their native version of the Xbox handheld, and that does bring your stuff over, then I'm intrigued. If, however, the native version of Xboxes doesn't allow you to bring your catalog over with you like a regular Xbox console would next generation, then I will just opt for probably a ROG Ally or something that might be more powerful. The only big selling point for me for Xbox handheld would be allowing me to take my Xbox library on the go.
Yeah.
If the official Xbox handheld, not the third party one, because the third party one is just to allow you to play Xbox games on the move, not necessarily back catalog.
Yeah.
But if the official one, when that comes out 2027 alongside the next Xbox console, doesn't allow you to do that, then I'd stick with a third party model and just go to ROG Ally 2 or whatever the hell it is at that point.
Yeah.
But it's good for them. I think it's what they're doing is, first of all, testing the operating system.
Yeah. I think that's what it's first and foremost for.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing what it needs, seeing what it needs. It's kind of essentially a road test.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we need in order to change this up and make it better for the official version? Right, okay. And then working alongside ROG, and then they tell them, okay, right, well, we think we need to make this a little bit more user-friendly, this a little bit more user-friendly, we need to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's the game plan. I think it's road testing this Windows Lite version in order to get it rocking and rolling for when they do the big rollout.
I agree.
Think that's what they'll use with a lot of these third-party ones up until they use them as the kind of beta testers.
Yeah,
which is a good and a bad thing. First of all, it's good because ROG know how to make a good handheld. They've proved it now with the ROG Ally. Xbox are confident that they'll make a good product. Secondly, of course, they know themselves how to make an OS and how to remove those kinks. The only thing that would still need your PC-like updates was, of course, your GPU updates.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that would stand in their way. Is yes, you'd have to have this, and you'd obviously have to remove some of the painstaking parts that you would get with PC, like Windows updates. Yes, absolutely, have those like you would an Xbox update. It prompts you when you turn your console on or your handheld on, and it says, right, update's waiting, and it forces you to do the update there and then. Okay, fine. Just like it would on a console. New update here, you can't connect to Xbox Live unless you have the new update. That's probably the best way for it. So you can still play offline unless you do the update. That's how it should be. But for the GPU, with it being like a PC GPU on a handheld, you would still have to have either the AMD or the NVIDIA GPU updates as and when they come in.
Yes, that's true.
So there's still, there's going to be some things to iron out. There's going to be some kinks and things that we need to sort
absolutely.
Out.
And like you said,
that's what they're going to use it. Yeah, I think that's what they're going to use it for. I think they're going to say, right, okay, let's see what's happening here. Let's iron out some kinks and let's get going.
Yeah, I agree. Before we continue on that, let me shout out Paul AFC, who is sent in a channel member chat for being a channel member for 45 months. And with that, he is the longest supporter of the channel, and I super appreciate that. And he says, Howie, the lads, Dutch evening, bro, Boxenberger.
Howie, the lad. Yeah, that's it's obviously Newcastle United won last Sunday their first trophy, first domestic trophy in 70 years.
Okay.
And first trophy in general in just shy of 60 years. So,
okay.
It was a big weekend for Newcastle United on the weekend. So yes, how are the lads?
Good stuff. Yeah, that, like you said, I think this handheld, how it is described, is actually going to be the ROG Ally 2. Yeah, that's just way more Xbox branded. And I think you hit the nail on the head with it being a test balloon. But I think it's even more than just a test balloon for the OS. Absolutely. They have been talking about debloating the Windows operating system for handhelds and other devices for a long time. And now, since the Xbox division is so huge within Microsoft, right, makes more money than the Windows division itself, it totally makes sense for them to do a Windows Lite version that is dedicated for gaming. And they kind of have to act on that anyway, because, well, they have now big competition with the Steam OS, and the Steam OS is gonna get licensed out to other OEMs, right? It's not just gonna run on the Steam Deck itself, but they've partnered with Lenovo, right, bringing a handheld there that is running on the Steam OS, and it's only a matter of time before they are also gonna license that OS out to a, let's say, more traditional console OEM. I don't know. Lenovo is then doing a console for that you plug in your TV with the Steam OS, right? That's only like a few months away before we're gonna get that announcement. And so they kind of have to act, and especially with all these different handhelds surfacing everywhere, they kind of have to have an answer on how to not make Steam OS the de facto industry standard, but to keep it on a Windows base level. So that totally makes sense. And I also think this is a test balloon for them. How does it work if we partner on hardware with a third party?
Yeah.
Because we all know how well the hardware, Xbox console hardware, is doing. Every quarter we have these reports. Console sales go down 20% here, 20% there, every quarter. And there's only so much money to make from them from traditional console sales. And so I also believe that this is a test balloon for them to check out, okay, how does it work for us if we partner with a third party hardware manufacturer? And who says that the next Xbox console is really made by Microsoft and not, I don't know, Lenovo or AMD, Asus or Dell, or I don't know. You know what I mean? So this makes total sense. On the other hand, I'm so and for that I'm also very intrigued. Yeah, I have my Rock Alley now for what now? Is it 2 years or 3 years? And it's getting... You can tell with some of the more demanding games that have came out lately. Yeah, you can tell that it needs a hardware upgrade. And so I'm intrigued about this handheld, the Xbox Asus Rock Alley, or whatever you're gonna call that thing. But on the other hand, if it's still just quote unquote just running Windows, and with that I do not have access to my Xbox library, and I still have the third party problem. You know, the third party problem, I've talked about this on the podcast multiple times, is simply the fact that Play Anywhere is not even close to being an industry standard. Almost every game that comes out that is not in Game Pass, and for the most part that's almost every game that comes out is not on Game Pass. It's only a very small amount of games that actually do launch in Game Pass. It's the first party games from Xbox mainly. Yeah. And as much and as good as the value of Game Pass is, please don't get me wrong on this, but like I buy about 50 games a year, and I play, I don't know, the 5 first party games from Xbox. It's still 45 games that I do not have in play anywhere. Yeah. We just had this conversation about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is on the screen right now. Yeah. Not play anywhere. I cannot play it on my Rock Alley and then move back to my console and then go back to the Rock Alley. I cannot do that. And if this is still the case with the upcoming Xbox handheld, the biggest problem that the Rock Alley right now has is not going to be fixed, because yes, you can. It would be cool to have a more streamlined Windows experience on that thing and not boot into the desktop every time I turn it on. But that's not my main issue with it. Yeah, it would be a nice to have. My main issue is my games and my game library, which is simply not a play anywhere library. And I don't think that this is going to be fixed just yet with the upcoming handheld. It's going to have a beautiful, hopefully very more streamlined Windows experience, and it's going to have the better chip in there and hopefully a little bit better battery life and everything cool. And I might sell my current Rock Alley and get the new one then, absolutely. But what I really want is a native experience in between an Xbox handheld and the console. And I do think we will get that with the next gen, but I don't think that this is this device that we are seeing this year from Asus and Xbox.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. 100%. Well, I think, with like you say, with this, I think it's they're testing. I think this is just testing the waters with the operating system.
Yeah.
Ironing out some kinks, making sure it's ready to rock and roll for all the what we would class as the kind of big unveiling of the OS when it launches with the proper Xbox handheld.
Yeah.
But time will tell.
Time will tell. Maybe this backwards compatibility team under what's her name, Sarah Bond, is actually doing exactly that, finding a way to emulate console games on Windows, right? And with that, you get kind of access to your console library on a handheld with the new Windows Lite Xbox OS. Who knows? They might be good for a surprise, but realistically, I wouldn't expect that. I just would expect a way more streamlined Windows experience.
Yeah.
All right, Dutch. Let us move on to a different topic. Let's talk about PlayStation for a bit. There were some news regarding the PS5 Pro and its PSSR upscaling technology, and we've had different reports on some of those. We talked in previous podcasts that PSSR is not that performant as it was made out to be, right? Not just a few games had that issue that the image quality actually got worse. Yes, you got more frames, but then the image quality got even worse. And let's just say PSSR itself didn't live up to what was promised or everyone hoped it would be, right? And I mean, on a side note, I'm not really surprised, because if I think back to DLSS 1 or FSR 1, right? Similar technologies in the first iteration, they all have been crap. It's a learning curve, and Sony apparently isn't undergoing the learning curve towards a new PSSR iteration, but they are looking into how to bring how to melt, let me put it this way, PSSR together with FSR4 and make a version of FSR4 available on the PS5. And FSR4, while still not being as good as DLSS, is a huge improvement. Really good image quality, way less artifacting and ghosting, and the frame generation is actually really good for the most part. If games can hit the minimum frames that you need, the way how frame generation actually works, it's very similar to DLSS, by the way, is that you're not getting a really good improvement with frame generation if a game runs already at, let's say, 30 FPS or 40 FPS. You kind of have to have like 60 FPS already in place, and then frame generation really shines, right? Anyway, what are your thoughts on this bringing FSR4 to the PS5? Because FSR4 is actually relying on a dedicated silicon to have an NPU available, which FSR3 did not. And the PS5 Pro has such an NPU, which is currently used for PSSR, and now they're moving this over to FSR4. So what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, in all fairness, I don't know, and I don't think it's going to have. I don't think it's certainly not going to have an impact on the regular PlayStation. It's going to be PS4 Pro.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah. So I don't know whether or not it will have a really big impact on, especially considering it's not till 2026. But what it says to me primarily is that FSR wasn't. Not only is it not achieved what they thought it would achieve, but also that PSSR was pretty much just FSR 3.5. As opposed to anything else. Otherwise, they wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just them admitting that it didn't live up to expectations, and they kind of need something else on there, which is unfortunate. But
is it though? Because I remember us talking about when they introduced PSSR. Remember the reveal of the PS5 Pro when they introduced this officially? I said something along the lines of, I appreciate them trying to do their own technology and develop their own technology. But at the end of the day, we already have so many different upscaling technologies out there. We have DLSS, we have Intel's XeSS, we have FSR in its different iterations, right? And then you come along and do your proprietary version of it. Yeah. And the question really is, will you be able to keep up with the industry standards that is DLSS? And second place, I would put FSR, right? Third place, then Intel's XeSS. And will you be able to play in the same ballpark when it comes to quality? And how much more complicated are you going to make it for developers? Because for the most part, every third-party game is coming to PC anyway. So these developers do have to implement DLSS. They do have to implement at least another technology, let's say FSR, for those who do not own an NVIDIA GPU.
Yeah.
Right? And then you add the extra workload of doing your proprietary thing on top of it. Not a lot of optimization is going to go in. That is what I've said. And I also said that it's going to be mainly supported, by first-party studios of PlayStation. And we do know about their roadmap, so you're not going to see it in many games anyway. And it's exactly what happened, right? Image quality isn't where it is supposed to be. Far behind the DLSS and an FSR for that matter. And so it makes only sense for them to move over to a wider industry standard, which then, of course, since you do not pack a NVIDIA GPU in your PlayStation 5 Pro, move it over to FSR4. It totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah, to be fair, that's exactly what I thought beforehand, but that's what I'm saying in terms of them ultimately admitting defeat in the fact that it was proprietary. Yes, great that you've tried it, but ultimately all this says is that the industry's spoken. They're not going to support something that is proprietary because not many people actually use it. FSR4 is coming into play anyway, which is industry standard.
Yeah.
Or will be industry standard for AMD. So everybody's just going to continue to use it, FSR4, when that comes out. So it kind of just shows the fact that, listen, this isn't going to change. Like, everybody's going to kind of retain the FSR4 utilization, and PSSR will be no more. It's just one of those things that I said, like you said, what's the point in introducing a new one? We're all for advancing technologies, but ultimately you kind of just said, okay, we've been working with AMD on PSSR and PSSR on FSR, but ultimately it's just FSR 3.5, and we're now just going to turn it into FSR4 alongside AMD.
Yeah.
So to me, it does kind of scream out to me that it was a stopgap until FSR4 was ready.
I agree. I'm not really sure if they really planned it out this way, to be fair. Maybe they thought, hey, we can do this, and then we have our own proprietary thing. We're not relying on others to do it, and we can optimize that more. But such an upscaling technology is not like an engine. You can do that with an engine really well, do your proprietary engines, and to be fair, PlayStation does have some really good proprietary engines. The Insomniac engine is really good. If you look at Naughty Dog, of course, proprietary engine, really good. The Decima engine, right? Also a really good engine. But upscaling technology is just something different. It's not an engine, and you kind of have to keep up with the industry and where this goes on upscaling technologies. And there's just too much good stuff out there.
Yeah, there is far too much good stuff out there, and unfortunately, if, like you say, you've got to keep up, and if the other technology is already advancing to a point where you're kind of not really bringing anything different to the table, and it's not also performing as good as it was, or the competitors, or it's not performing as good as you thought it would be, as a stopgap in between it was okay in providing some temporary performance boosts, but like you say, image quality took too much of a hit on some of them. So again, another problem they've had with PSSR was primarily the fact that there hasn't been the software to support it anyway. PlayStation Studios hasn't been outputting games quick enough.
Yeah.
So that you haven't been able to really see what it could do, even if it was fully utilized and fully optimized for, because there's nothing to show it off. So it makes sense if they've got something that's coming out next year, then why not push out FSR4 and just really put all of our things into that? And I think what he said is anything that's coming out this year, we're going to make sure everybody's developing or at least trying to use PSSR where possible.
Yeah.
And get them ready to upgrade onto FSR4 next year when we implement it. So
agree.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. It's like they were testing things and it didn't pan out. So it is what it is. But we kind of said this anyway with the middle ground consoles, kind of when they were announcing them. The problem with these mid-gen refreshes is that unlike previous generations, there isn't really anything to shout about with these mid-gen refreshes, because this generation has been like, what are you going to tout? What is the reason to upgrade into this next generation of consoles? Like what the mid-gen refreshes? Because at least last mid-gen refresh, we went from 1080 to 4K, big jump.
Yep, true.
What have we got this time?
Yeah, we don't have that. That's true. I'm still a fan of mid-gen refreshes in general, because a typical 6 to 8 year console cycle is just too long to move.
No, of course, but you've my point primarily is you have to give a good reason, and I don't think what they've shown is a good reason to have a mid-gen refresh.
That is true. Yeah, the execution on this one really isn't worth it.
The problem I think with mid-gen refreshes is now, though, is in order to get a real difference in performance going forwards, without, okay, this one has hardware upscaling and this one doesn't. Okay, great, if it works. The problem they've got, though, is that whilst you can boost the GPU for performance on your mid-gen refresh, what you can't change is the CPU, because otherwise you have two different SKUs.
Yes.
That's two entirely different SKUs, and then you have to literally develop for two different consoles.
That's true.
And so the mid-gen refreshes now are like, right. So it's hardware upscaling. That's it.
Yeah.
We can give a little bit of performance boost.
All the more reason. Yeah, true. All the more reason for Microsoft to actually do Windows-based console in next gen.
Yeah.
And not worry about these issues, because then you simply play the PC version on the console, and you can easily scale with that across different GPUs, CPUs, RAM configurations, and so on. Yeah. All right, Dutch. Let us stick with PlayStation for a moment. And they also founded a new studio this week.
Yeah.
New first-party studio that is has been formed. It's called Dark Outlaw Games. And the lead of the studio is the former lead of Call of Duty Zombies. Huh? Interesting. So, what are your expectations from this?
I mean, it's great to see them creating new studios and trying to do new things. I still have limited expectations. My sole, it is my sole concern about Sony remains as is. We still have nothing in the short term. This is great for the long term.
Yeah.
But what we like, honestly, what are we doing?
Yeah. What are we doing, and what are we celebrating? Listen. New studio, always cool, always exciting. Xbox has also founded a few new studios in recent years. Yeah, we have the one in Poland with the with a lot of people from People Can Fly in there, right? But we're not gonna see anything from this in the next 5, 6, 7 years. It's just the harsh reality in this day and age that it takes 6 years to make a AAA game. All right, and so we are not gonna see that game, whatever that studio is working on, then before we are talking about this PS6 Pro, right?
Yeah,
and so yeah, it's cool, but I've seen so many people celebrate this online, and I was just, what are we doing here, right? We are not going to get any proper games from Sony, first party games, this gen and in the foreseeable future, and this is not gonna change anything about that there is a new studio in the roster.
Yeah, I agree. It's, I mean, like, again, it's nice to see, but my major issue with Sony is still what we've spoke about. There isn't anything on the short term, so it's all fine and dandy having something new to look forward to. But with that said, they also don't have the best track record of, with creating studios, actually letting them get a game out before they close them down.
That is also very true.
Or with multiplayer games, those games see the light of day before they get cancelled.
Yeah.
And then these teams get put in elsewhere. So
that's a fair statement.
While others might be semi-celebrating the fact that there's a new studio creating a nice game, I will hold my breath with Sony because they don't have a good track record with maintaining studios, especially newly founded ones.
True. So let us talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
And move away from PlayStation for a minute. We are about to see a new Star Wars game from Respawn.
Indeed we are.
In April, there is the Star Wars celebration, and they said they are going to reveal their real-time strategy game. Star Wars-based real-time strategy game.
I would love a Star Wars Age of Empires.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm all up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do hope, honestly, I do hope that it's more in that sense, like your Age of Empires or Command & Conquer or StarCraft, and not one of these 4X strategy games.
Yeah, God, yeah, I would hate that. I would, yeah. Please no.
Yeah.
Please no. Oh, that would be my worst nightmare.
I'm actually pretty excited because Respawn hasn't disappointed, right? Titanfall 2 was amazing, and I really did enjoy the Star Wars Jedi games. This is now, of course, obviously an entirely new genre. They have not been developing that game on their own, though. They have partnered with a Bitreactor on this one. So I'm really looking forward to see that game and how it is, because I do have high hopes on that.
Yeah, again, high hopes, but like we've just mentioned, I hope this RTS is more like an Age than it is the 4X, because I would nope. I would not try that. Oh no, what a wasted opportunity. Yeah, or even I would even take a Halo Wars-esque Star Wars RTS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Either
Absolutely.
that, like a Halo Wars or an Age of Empires, but not. Please not a 4X. Please no.
Yes, please not. All right. And in other Star Wars news, by the way, apparently remember the KOTOR remake.
Mm-hmm.
is apparently still in development. The studio confirms this.
Really?
Yeah, they have confirmed it this week. It's still in development. We haven't seen anything of the game since it got announced. What now? I want to say 5 years ago at least.
Yep.
And we've heard rumors about it being cancelled and so on. But apparently they are still working on it. And it's still in development. Official statement from the studio.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see what they've got then.
I mean, KOTOR is one of the all-time greats, right? So
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, none of us wanted to see KOTOR cancelled.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it isn't. Let's see what transpires and how long. You never know. Could see it this year then if it's still in development. Yeah. Could see it this year.
Could see. True. I wonder if it's still gonna be like a PlayStation exclusive kind of thing, or if plans have changed there on that end after it being.
Yeah, it still would be after all this time.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't. In my opinion, and I think most people would say the same thing. For a third-party studio these days, especially an IP like that, it doesn't make much sense to have an IP like that as a single platform. It really doesn't. I think most third parties, and especially third-party IP holders, have realized the fact that having exclusivity with a singular platform isn't in their best interest.
Yeah.
Especially like to Disney, which is, I think, why Indiana Jones ended up being, okay, we're going to do that multi-plat. It doesn't make much sense financially for us or the IP holder.
You look at Square. They've completely changed their strategy on that.
Yeah. And rightfully so. They've seen the impacts on it financially. I mean, there's only so many times year on year they can tell us that that it's underperformed every time they release a game.
Yeah, true.
Every time. This hasn't met our expectations. Like, what does meet your expectations?
Dustin Lambert in the chat says that Sony actually apparently pulled the funding from the KOTOR remake, and I think he is right. I remember there were some headlines along these lines. It's been so long, man. Can't really properly remember, but I think that could be true because there have been all these news that Sony had issues with the studio, that they were not performing and it moved out and then they canceled it and all these things. So yeah, let's see. If it's still in development, like you said, could be that we see it even this year.
Yeah. You just never know.
I mean, showcase season is upon us, right? It's not long till June.
Exactly. So,
less than 3 months.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
True that. Dutch, let us get back to Xbox. They have introduced the Xbox Copilot, an AI that supports and helps you in games. Yeah.
Woohoo!
I mean, you've seen the news. You can ask now questions like how to finish this level, how to get better at Age, or Call of Duty, or whatnot. So the Xbox Copilot, right? Basically. Yeah. What do you think about this? Is this something you're interested in? You think you might use that? What are your thoughts?
I think it'd be good for is younger audiences that want to learn how to play something or need help with something. If a relative's not really good on computer games, like like when I was growing up, my father was always on the computer and he was doing things. So if I needed help on something, I could always go to my dad and ask him about something on the game or how to fix something. But people might not have that option, and the relatives might not be good with technology to be able to help them with games, or they might not game themselves. So if they get this like Copilot thing introduced, maybe for younger audiences, that'll help them kind of solve puzzles or how to use certain things or do certain actions in games, then why not? Why not have it? It's options, isn't it? So,
right.
Not for me, obviously, but it's an addition that can be probably helpful for some people.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's nothing bad about options, right? If they're not forcing that onto you, I'm all for it. If it helps people to enjoy their games more or whatnot, cool. I wonder how good it actually is, because the way how they really introduced it is like you lose, for instance, in an Age of Empires 4 match, right?
Yeah.
Not that I would lose.
Not that would ever happen, but
no, never. And then you can ask, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? And it actually gives you proper strategies. If it's more like you ask these questions and then it gives you like 5 random YouTube tutorials,
which I think it's what it'll do.
Yeah, I would assume so. Assume so. So it really depends on the quality of it. If it is basically voice controlled Google search that you can do while gaming, that's really not something I would be interested in. If it is really an AI that helps you to understand certain mechanics better, get better at Call of Duty, and explains to you, were you such an easy victim in this round, or something like that, then it might actually be really interesting. So it really depends on the execution and how this is implemented. But yeah, let's see.
Let's see, indeed. I do think it's ultimately probably going to be just here's some YouTube tutorials.
Yeah.
Get this guy out. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dutch.
That, or it's going to give you what do you call them, hot tip things, where it's just like press A to jump. Like,
thank you. I've been playing this game for 500 hours and I did not know to press the A button.
Yeah. It's either going to be like really simple, where it just gives you really basic things that you already know, or it's going to be just directing you to YouTube. It's one of the two.
True. More Xbox rumors out there, Dutch, with Oblivion making headlines again. Oblivion Unreal Engine 5 remake. Yeah, it could be releasing sooner than you think. Some insiders have repeated that it's gonna release before June. Others have reported that it might be as early as next month. Video Games Chronicles wrote about that some sources told them it's gonna be an April game. So where do you stand on this?
If it was going to be an April game, would have seen it by now. But also, I don't think they would have, especially Oblivion Remake. Of all the things, they would just put it out as essentially like we've got an Oblivion Remake. After all that.
Yeah, that was my initial thought. A proper... I could see that happening if it were just a remaster thing, like, you get your 60 FPS patch and a little bit of upressing. But if it is, and this is what the rumors have been, like a Unreal Engine 5 remake, then this is way too big.
My problem is I don't believe that is what it will be. I think it will be a HD remaster.
Yeah. I agree.
Because
I don't think.
the Unreal Engine 5 remake of Oblivion is monstrous work.
Yes.
Like, that isn't something you put out just randomly in April. That's essentially a full-fledged new game.
Yeah, I agree. Especially since the Bethesda games are running on the creation engine, right?
Exactly.
Which is, it might not be visually the best engine out there, but it has certain mechanics in there that are not easily that you cannot easily replicate in an Unreal Engine or so. So
like the duplication thing, like
Yeah.
having so many things being able to duplicate and how many items you have on screen. Like, it doesn't sound like much, but when you have a look at, for instance, even if you have a look at Starfield and that funny video where the guy collected all of the potatoes and put it in one room,
yeah,
and they stay there forever for the entire playthrough. That game that remains there. All of those potatoes remain in that same room that you put them in, and when you open the door, they all fall out. That kind of thing is not replicatable on UE. It's because that's the way they've built it.
Exactly. So the rumors have been that it is underneath still running for exactly that reason on the Unreal Engine, and that it is only used for visual upgrades.
Yeah,
I'm not a dev, but I don't think it's that easy that you just put like visuals on top of a different engine. That is not how engines work. And not too familiar with the creation engine. I mean, the creation engine, that's why it's called the creation engine, lets you do the craziest things. Just look at the modding community, right? But not sure if that is that easy to just pull over the creation engine, the shell of a Unreal 5 engine, though. However, even if that would be the case, I also believe that this would be way too big for them to just randomly drop that in April, where they already have 2 major games coming out. South of Midnight just went gold today, right? And is going to come out, in 2 weeks? And then you have Expedition 33 towards the end of April, and then in May you have Doom coming.
Yeah.
I don't think that you just randomly drop into that an Oblivion remake.
I agree.
If that thing exists in the way how the rumors have been telling us, the most you will get is an announcement of it in April. But I don't think they're gonna bring it out in April.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, it was very similar with Tony Hawk 3 and 4, right? Where they actually teased it for 4th of March, and then then it was the announcement of the game, but the game actually comes out a little later, now in July. And
yeah, exactly.
I could see that happening, that we get some sort of announcement. We're doing this. Stay tuned for the Xbox showcase. And with that, they announced the Xbox showcase, So we are doing this in June. See more of it in June. And then they release it somewhere in this fall or late summer, August release, or I don't know. I could see that happening.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think.
I would love it, though, honestly. It's been way too long since we had an Elder Scrolls game. Skyrim is now 12 years? No, 15 years.
Yeah.
It was 2010, right?
Because you've got a hell of a long wait until Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, exactly. And so I I would love to have a proper, good-looking Oblivion.
I would play it if they've taken out weapon degradation.
Yes, please. I hated that.
Just get rid of it. No one likes it.
Yeah.
No one likes weapon. If anybody says they like weapon degradation, you're a sadist. You're you're a sadist. Why would you like that? Why would
no
you enjoy
game
that?
was ever made better by weapon degradation. Whether it's Oblivion or whether it's your games like a Zelda, Breath of the Wild, or I don't know.
Yeah. Or shooters where your guns jam. It's like, great. This is exactly what I want. Realism in my...
Yeah.
When I'm trying to shoot something, I'm trying for my gun to jam. That's great. Or my sword to randomly break in battle, which very, very extremely rarely occurred in actual fights in the past because they were made of solid iron or steel.
Yeah. True that.
Yeah, mate.
So, yeah, man. Would be cool. Would be cool an Oblivion remake. No matter when it comes out. All right, Dutch. And with that, let us move to this week's community questions. Every Wednesday, you guys can write in questions. We put up posts on all the social channels, on YouTube, on Blue Sky, on Twitter. You can write in, and we do not lock that behind a paywall. So no Patreon subscription or channel subscription or anything needed. You just write in, and we try to answer those questions. And the first question of this week comes in from our good friend from the Netherlands. Petju is writing in and says, with all the positive news of Assassin's Creed Shadows that launches very soon, do you think Ubisoft made a comeback in the AC series? Well, I mean, it's getting...
I don't think the AC series had a downfall. I think people just, like many other Ubisoft games, people just went, it's a Ubisoft game.
Yeah. You're one of them.
Yep. Exactly, it's me. I'm exactly one of those people because it is still a Ubisoft game, and that's not saying it's a bad thing. It's just that Ubisoft titles, for the most part, don't do anything to advance the genre.
That is very true.
Gaming. They are just a good game, and that's not a bad thing, but it doesn't do anything to stand out. It's like, yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bring anything new to the table. Like, nothing that Ubisoft have done outside of maybe visual changes in Snowdrop Engine, but that's just an engine, not the game itself.
Yeah.
Outside of what they do visually, gameplay mechanics-wise, Ubisoft have never pushed anything forward. It's always been the same. So when you go from one Ubisoft game to the next, you know exactly what you're getting because it's just identical across the board. It could be whether it's The Division, whether it's Ghost Recon, whether it's any of the Assassin's Creed games. They've all got roughly the same type of thing that you need to do. Go here and do this, and it unlocks this. Go here and do this, and it unlocks this. Go here and do this, and it unlocks this. And this. I mean, that's including Ghost Recon, including Division. You unlock certain areas of the map by doing certain things, whether that be doing towers or doing this or doing that. It's just they're all the same. So whilst they're good and serviceable games, they don't really push the genre forward. They don't do anything new. When we're talking about people who do something new, this is why I love Joseph Fares's work. It's because he's done something new and he continues to do new things with the games that he creates. And that's what I look for in titles when they're coming out. It's like, okay, what else do they bring to the table that's new that we haven't seen before? And Ubisoft don't bring anything new to the table. They bring a lot of new games and they're good-looking games and they're very serviceable and enjoyable. But are you going to miss them? Probably not.
I would absolutely miss them. I do like the
Ubisoft
more games. I do get what you're saying about the Ubisoft formula, though. There is a certain formula to the games, but it's in there because it's a great formula. And it just works in open world games to have certain things in there, to have a gigantic map where you actually know where to go. Yeah, I hated that about Elden Ring. that I had absolutely no idea where I am, where I need to go. So certain things are in that formula because they are just good. Yeah. And I do sometimes feel that a lot of the hate is just because it's popular to hate on Ubisoft. Because when you look at it in itself, yes, they do make open world games, but show me, I would say like 99% of the open world games do follow the exact same formula than Ubisoft does. Yeah. It's nothing that is like Ubisoft specific. And if I look at them over the last 5 years, what they have done, the Division 2, yeah, I mean, it's been a while, I know, but that was an absolutely fantastic game. That this third person based cover shooter thing mixed with gases, like things where you had these little mini raids that you could do with randoms. Yeah, that was fantastic. I enjoyed that. Then I look at games like Far Cry. Yeah, Far Cry 5 was a very different game. Yes, it was also an open world game, but it was a beautifully crafted sandbox game. As was Watch Dogs 3. Watch Dogs 3 was fantastic. What you could do in London was just absolutely amazing. A well-crafted game and super fun to play. And then I look at Assassin's Creed. It's been 4 years since we had Valhalla. I'm absolutely itching for a proper... we had this one... what was it called? Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was more like an intermediate thing, right? It's what wasn't in the Assassin's Creed mainline thing. So, but other than that, it's been a while since we had an Assassin's Creed game. So I can't really say that I had too much Assassin's Creed games in recent years, because I really did not. That's why I'm super looking forward to dive more and more hours into Shadows now. Then I look at Star Wars. I really didn't understand why people didn't like the Ubisoft Star Wars game. That was a great story, a fun story. Was an easy to get into game. It was not this typical Ubisoft open world experience. It was more like think about, you had these open areas. It was a shooter. Very different from your likes of an Assassin's Creed, right? So I think a lot of this Ubisoft hate is just because it's popular to hate on Ubisoft. Did they have their misses? Absolutely. Every big publisher does. Look at what Xbox did with Redfall or so. Yeah. Every big publisher has its misses, and so does Ubisoft. But they had one of my absolutely favorite games of last year in Prince of Persia, which is really not a Ubisoft game in the way how people like it. So I need to break a leg here for Ubisoft Day, because they actually deliver a lot in their games. You get a lot of content, a lot of bang for your buck. So usually they are really well done. They launch their games complete. They provide it with a lot of extra content, and so I do not understand that. So, but that wasn't the question. The question is Assassin's Creed coming back?
I don't think it went anywhere. I just think, like I say, I just think it's a serviceable IP, and it's doing its utmost to try and go into different timelines and different areas and things like that.
Yeah,
I think if you were to say is Assassin's Creed coming back, you would have to go to its roots, to Ezio and to things like that. I think that's when you would say is Assassin's Creed back. But I've always said this about, and whether it be Valhalla or Origins or Odyssey, those games should be outside of the Assassin's Creed universe in itself. They're very good games, but I do believe Ubisoft are using these titles in order to get more people to play them because they have the Assassin's Creed name, as opposed to simply being just a serviceable title on its own back.
That is true. But then at the same time, you know, I've played all the Assassin's Creed games, and my favorite is still Odyssey, which is in this new era of
new style.
In this more action RPG oriented Assassin's Creed games, and cannot wait to play more of Shadows. What is interesting, by the way, is if you open up Shadows, you get into a hub menu where you can select all the Assassin's Creed games you do own or have access to. And so you can basically start from the Assassin's Creed Shadows menu. You can start your Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Odyssey or whatnot. This is really interesting. Yeah, of course, if you have not downloaded it, you can. You have to download it first, but that is really interesting that when you open up the game, you get into an Assassin's Creed hub. And they have this little intro video before they let you go into this hub, where they explain the animus and the idea behind the animus. So I thought that is quite interesting that they touch on their rich history in the Assassin's Creed franchise in such a way. But anyway, let us move on.
It's certainly interesting in doing that. It sounds very, shall we say, Call of Duty-esque, though, in the way that they do things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there has been a time where we got like an Assassin's Creed game basically every year, where Assassin's Creed tried to be such a thing like Call of Duty with the annual releases. And I'm glad that they moved away from that. But it's really interesting to have that as the starting screen basically for it. And in that hub, you didn't have to select Shadows, and then you can play actually Shadows. So, all right, Clute writes in: what Ubisoft IP would you like to see EA or Microsoft acquire? Yeah, there has been this rumor, Dutch, that Ubisoft, because they are not doing well financially, right? I mean, that's not a secret. They are one of the biggest publishers in terms of headcounts. And obviously, if you employ more than 20,000 people and have an output like Ubisoft does, obviously you're not that effective, right?
Nope, not anymore.
I mean, if you think about this, ABK, 12,000 people. And then you put the 20,000 of Ubisoft against that. And they are not doing well financially, like a lot of publishers these days. There has been the rumor out there that they might sell out or license out IP to other publishers. And there has been the rumor about Tencent. There has been the rumor about EA and Microsoft looking into certain things. So what would be your IP that you would like to see acquired by another publisher?
Easy. Tom Clancy, because I don't think Ubisoft do it justice anymore.
Is Tom Clancy really an IP that Ubisoft license out? Because I think the Tom Clancy name is licensed by Ubisoft. They might have such a thing like an exclusive right, but the Tom Clancy is a brand in itself.
Right, Tom Clancy, yeah.
So I would say Splinter Cell, man. I would.
But it's the Tom Clancy IP in general, so they don't only just have the Splinter Cell kind of rights; they have the rights to a lot of their works and catalogs, which is where you come. Some things like the Division, not just the Division, but other titles like that came off the back of it, and then X Defiant, which they tried to put a Tom Clancy name onto, rightfully they removed it from, as you can remember, because it wasn't one of his works. The likes of the Division, etc., was based on his works, which is what they're titled to. So they're allowed to use that, and they've got the rights to use his works. But what they can't do, and what they have attempted to do in the past, is use his name to tout stuff that he never created.
That's true. That is true.
So I'd rather somebody picked up the Tom Clancy IP off them, released them of that burden, and somebody else actually did it justice. And again, that's an IP, and in general, an IP in the rights that they don't do justice to.
Yeah, that's. Well, I'm with you that it's that they don't do it justice to, and it feels like you just slap the name on it to have it on there. I think Splinter Cell is such an underused IP of theirs. Splinter Cell is fantastic, and it's been a decade since we had anything. And before every showcase, everyone is always like, is this the year? Is this the year where we finally see Splinter Cell come back, right? And then they announced the remake 5 years ago and have not shown anything, and nobody is expecting this game to ever come out. And so if Microsoft would acquire that, I would be happy, man. And then do a proper new Splinter Cell game. That would be cool.
For me, it would always be, of course, Ghost Recon, and to actually do that as a serviceable title again. People think Ghost Recon really, but if you have a look at the way Ghost Recon's went over the last couple of years, Wildlands was okay. People have enjoyed that. That's fine. It was a good concept, but I think the difference between concept and reality is the problem. It's all well and good saying, okay, we'll do X, Y, and Z in concept, but unless you can put that into reality and actually bring out something that people want to play. Breakpoint was prime example of doing something in theory and it not actually coming out the way you thought it would. So I'd love to see that be captured and take it back to its roots. Everybody remembers Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter.
Yeah.
When that came out, that was absolutely fantastic. That's what a Ghost Recon should be. This more of a story-based, kind of not so much Call of Duty-esque, but you know what I mean? Slightly more open, not hugely open world.
Agreed.
Story-based IP again.
The next question comes in from Sith Lord, and he asks, do you think the new PlayStation Studio will last long enough to release a game? So we talked about this earlier. There's a big chance, man, for them to shut it down if you look at that track record.
Yeah.
Pillar of Autumn writes in and says, it's more of a statement than an actual question. It says, Jesus fucking Christ, Assassin's Creed Shadows is so good. The graphics and the 40 FPS mode, pure love. I'm glad you are enjoying that, man, because it is really good, especially at 40 FPS. Sweet spot for the game. Sweet spot. 80 Metamatic writes in, hello Boxy in Dutch. I was flabbergasted to learn the other day that Volkswagen makes sausages. Have you tried them? I'm partial to Lincolnshire sausages myself.
Dutch. What kind of sausage did
Volkswagen, the car OEM. Did you know that? There is
no.
Volkswagen, they have the biggest car plant in Europe, in Ingolstadt and here in Germany, and they do have a very famous sausage that is served in the cantina every day, as an option, of course. There are other meals.
Yeah.
And yes, I have tried that. I have been a couple of times, 5-6 times, to that plant, and yeah, I have tried that. It's very good currywurst. So
Yeah. Yes, we've had currywurst together before.
yeah, we had that. The Big Bridge writes in, and I love his questions. He always puts in these weird questions so that you have to follow me on this one, okay? Hello, Boxy and Wandering Dutch. My question is, you are temporarily stranded on a deserted island with only one single favorite video game. Rescuers will arrive in 10 hours to save you, but they say that you can't bring anything back home, so you must complete the game before your rescue. Which short but super fun video game would you play only once and then leave it behind in the sands?
The Tourist.
Interesting.
Because that is also a desert islandy game.
Gotcha.
It's a voxel art game. If anyone's played The Tourist before, it's a voxel art game. Very, very sweet little title. It was one of you'll remember it because they did the Alice in Wonderlandy game for Xbox.
Yeah.
It was the same people. The Tourist.
Interesting.
Loved that game.
I know the game, but I haven't played it. So.
It's a really cool game. Cool game.
Interesting. So if I have to think about this. I could name a game like Arkham Asylum, which you could probably beat in 10 hours, and is one of my favorite games. But I would probably also go with a really, really good indie game like Death's Door or something like that.
Good shout. That's a good shout.
Yeah. All right, Dutch. And with that, we come to an end of this week's podcast. I want to say a big, big thank you to everyone who listened here today. I know we had some technical issues. We hope that the stream was all right for you. That's why we kept the cameras off, and I do hope that the audio recording is fine for everyone. But yeah, again, a big thank you. We hope you did enjoy the show. Dutch, before we let everyone out, let everyone know where they can find you and what you've coming up, man.
Yeah, you can find me over on Twitter and YouTube as Wondering Dutch X or Wonder Dutch. I don't have much coming up, to be fair, at the moment. It's relatively quiet. I'll be back doing the podcast next week, hopefully, when there's a little bit more beefy news to speak about. But until then, I am streaming Split Fiction with the General C. So we'll be live on the weekend again, probably Sunday night, I think, for definite, after 7 o'clock. We'll be live with part 3 of Split Fiction. So you can come and see me then.
Nice. Awesome. Good stuff. So yeah, we will be back next week at the regular time. I was also informed by our friend the Sith Lord that my time announcements were a little wrong, because apparently in the United States they already turned clocks to summer time. And we are going to do that here in Europe.
30th
of this month. Yeah. So Sunday in a week. So next week for the US listeners, we will be, I don't know Dutch, will we be at 3 or 1? I never can remember this.
It's a 1 hour difference either way, isn't it? So what was it previously?
It was 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so it'll be 1. It'll be 1 then.
It will be 1 then. So no, it will be 3 then for them. They have to wait.
The clocks go back, don't they? Or is it forward? It's backwards, isn't it?
Forward.
Is it forward? Oh, we're losing now, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we're losing one.
No, we gain an hour, so it goes back. Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
before we embarrass ourselves even more, it's either 1 hour earlier or later. You guys need to figure that out on your own. For the rest of our listeners, we will be back at the usual time, 8 p.m. Central Europe or 7 p.m. UK time. And yeah, enjoy your gaming. The weekend is near. Play some games. Hope you do enjoy your weekend, and we see you guys next week. And don't forget to game on.